Today's topic is an add-on featuring two units that breathe a little bit of new life into East Coastway, which has, historically, been one of my preferred UK routes in TSW. This is the long-overdue Class 171 and an additional variant of the Class 377, brought to Train Sim World 6 by Rivet Games. Meanwhile, the infamous Arosa line, West Cornwall Local, and S-Bahn Central Schweiz are spluttering along on fumes with numerous problems still unfixed. Talk about routes that could do with being remastered. The Class 171 and Class 377-3 pack was first announced in the October 2025 roadmap, but it wasn't released until the 26th of February 2026. For PC players, like me, the add-on is available to buy on Steam for 25 New Zealand dollars at full price. It's interesting to note that, after going quiet for over 1 year following the release of 5 Circle, all Rivet has done for new DLC so far is release modified variants of existing models. Their depiction of the 377-3 is no exception, in the sense that she is only a lightly modified version of the original 377-4 that comes with East Coastway, so do with that information what you will. Come to think of it, instead of the clunky title with which they went, I reckon Rivet should have named their new add-on something like East Coastway Expansion Pack. As for what the Class 171 even is, this is essentially identical to the Class 170, of which we already have 3 variants in TSW, namely ScotRail, Cross Country, and West Midlands. The only real difference between the 170 and the 171 is the use of a Dellner coupler instead of a BSI coupler on the 171, thus allowing the units to couple up to a 377 in an emergency. The 171s were built in 2003 and 2004 to replace the Class 205 Thumper and other diesel-electric multiple units, and have primarily run on services from London Bridge to Uckfield or Brighton to Ashford via Eastbourne. This add-on for TSW 6 focuses on the latter service, but not in its entirety because the route coverage doesn't cover the Marshlink line east of Eastbourne. The 171 fleet has been shuffled around a bit in more recent times, but Rivet's pack for TSW 6 only includes the 2-car 171-7 and 4-car 171-8 variants. These units were built as 171s from new, and come equipped with the newer Phase 2 headlight style. The older Phase 1 style isn't included because that was only on the 171s that were refurbished from ex-ScotRail 170s. As for the Class 377-3, Southern has 28 examples of this variant in their fleet, but they were originally built as Class 375-3 units for what we now know as Southeastern, and reclassified upon their transfer to Southern and being fitted with Dellner couplers. As an aside, and personally speaking, I think TSW could do with an all-new Electrostar model, since the overall proportions on this old model are a bit too chunky. And here's a thought, Rivet. If you were prepared to modify the existing 377 model to get a 377-3, why did you not go the whole hog and add a proper 377-1 as well? And I just realised that you missed an opportunity to add the 377-6 and 377-7. The latter is very important for accurately recreating the East Croydon to Milton Keynes service in timetable mode on the Brighton main line. At present, that service is represented with a 377-4 in the game, which is completely unrealistic because that variant is 3rd rail DC only. If we're not going to get a proper 377-7 in TSW, then Dovetail should, at the very least, set up the 377-2 with a layer on the Brighton mainline. For a comparison with the TSW model, here is a photograph of a 377-3 in real life, taken by me at Chichester on the 5th of May 2025. There are a few differences between the 377-3 and the other variants that we already have in TSW, namely the 377-4 and 377-2. For one thing, the 377-3 only has 3 coaches instead of 4, and for another, she uses the older headlight style. Again, why was the 377-1 omitted, especially when they have the same light style as the stroke 3? Meanwhile, the seating is 2x2 throughout the entire unit, and the first class section is only at one end instead of both, as is the case on the 377-4. Unfortunately, but apparently due to licensing issues of some sort, Rivet's 377 uses the same default sounds as the old ECW 377. In my opinion, said sounds are not as good as they are on the Electrostars from Brighton mainline. Another thing I've just realised is that Rivet missed an opportunity to add the other missing variants of the Class 375, which would make the rail scene on southeastern high speed more realistic, and present better value for money, for that matter. At present, and without any mods installed, the only variant we have in TSW is the 375-9, which has the later Phase 2 lights and horrible 3x2 seating. But the good thing is that that situation will change with the upcoming Medway Valley Line add-on from Firefly Simulations, which will include the long-overdue 375-3 and 375-6. Seeing as Rivet seems to like modifying their existing Class 170 model to get additional variants, I can see them trying their hand at a Class 172. If they were to make a 172, I would ideally want Rivet to add all 4 variants, although I wouldn't be surprised if they only bothered adding the 172-0 and 172-1 variants, which just so happen to not have cab-end gangways. Now that I think about it, I'd rather see any developer but Rivet make a Class 172, plus the Worcester to Birmingham Snow Hill and Stourbridge Town route, for TSW, since I have a nasty feeling that Rivet would make an absolute dog's breakfast of the 172's distinctive engine sound. At this point, I realise that I am tempting fate, so we'll just have to wait and see if anything happens. There's a new timetable for East Coastway, but it's locked behind a paywall in the form of this 171 and 377-3 pack. The new ECW timetable has 2 versions, one with Seaford services run by 377-3s, and the other with those same services run by Class 313s instead of Electrostars. One thing common to both versions is the fact that you can finally see the long-overdue addition of Gatwick Express and Thameslink trains for AI traffic at Brighton Station, as well as other 377s for the London Victoria to Eastbourne services, which are playable between Lewes and Eastbourne. For whatever reason, the Gatwick, Thameslink, and extra southern services were missing from the original timetable mode. In addition, you sometimes see a Great Western Railway Class 150, from the Riviera Line add-on, as an AI-only layer at Brighton, in order to represent services to Portsmouth and Cardiff. Of course, the 171 and 377-3 have onboard announcements, as demonstrated here.
This is New Haven Harbour. This train is the Southern service to Brighton, calling at New Haven Town, South East, Lewes, Falmouth, Moulscombe, London Road and Brighton. The next station is New Haven Town.
Meanwhile, you get 42 playable services for the Class 171, 128 services for the Class 377-3, and 151 services for the Class 377-4. The 3-car 377 mainly appears on the Brighton to Seaford service, but apparently can also be seen running in tandem with a 377-4 from time to time. Interestingly, The 377-2 from WCML South and 377-4 from Brighton Mainline can also substitute into the new ECW timetable. Thinking back to the Thameslink trains at Brighton, this only makes Dovetail's inability to get their acts together and sort out a 12-car Class 700-1 for the Brighton Mainline even more disappointing. The TSW add-on only includes an 8-car 700-0 variant as standard, and the only way to get the 12-car variant and Thameslink services on the Brighton Mainline is to use a timetable mod. As for the driving experience on the 377-3, it's pretty much exactly the same as the existing variants. You know, combined throttle and brake handle and all that. Albeit with a little bit less power than the 4-car 377s due to the absence of a third motor coach. The 3-car unit had the potential to be an extra layer on the Brighton Mainline, thus finally breaking up the monotony of only getting 377-4s for every single southern service over there. But to my disappointment, the 377-3 doesn't layer onto the BML. Go figure. Not helping the situation are some issues aboard this unit. The carriage number slider was removed, and yet you still get a prompt to slide it. While the model was changed to remove first class at one end, as is correct for this variant, Rivet hasn't changed the sit in a seat prompt in the driving coach that doesn't have first class anymore. This unit's driver vigilance pedal is apparently broken, although it doesn't really affect me because I usually drive with the vigilance disabled. And for whatever reason, this unit doesn't even have guard mode compatibility, even though the 377-4 included with the base route, not to mention the 171, do have said compatibility. I will summarise my thoughts on the 377-3 with just 3 words. That's our Rivet! In the previous video, I brought up a dynamic weather bug where thick fog will sometimes disappear abruptly with no warning. After a couple of unsuccessful attempts at catching it while driving along ECW, I finally caught that bug on camera when I was driving along the Cross City line, having just left university on a run from Bromsgrove to Birmingham New Street. Thinking back to the Class 171, I saw mention of supposedly improved sounds on this unit in a pre-release article, and that said sounds would be backported to the existing Class 170 variants. But Rivet Games don't have the best track record when it comes to audio. Just ask the Class 385 from ScotRail Express and the RABE 523 from S-Bahn Central Schweiz, so I was a bit sceptical of their claims regarding the 171. What follows is a sound comparison between the West Midlands Railway Class 170 and a Southern Class 171. In closing, I'm kind of split down the middle in terms of how I feel about Rivet Games' latest add-on. On the one hand, I think it's good to finally see the Class 171 in this game, since she fills a gap in the East Coastway rail scene, and I reckon that, with all things considered, she's actually one of Rivet's rare decent trains. But on the other hand, the pack is let down by the, in my opinion, low-quality 377-3. Considering how much time passed between the add-on's announcement and release, you would be forgiven for thinking that the developers would have used that time to iron out as many kinks as possible. But then again, this is Rivet Games we're talking about. As for the price and value for money, I think 25 New Zealand dollars is too much for what you get, and the deal could have been sweetened had Rivet added the Class 377-1 alongside the 171 and 377-3. In its current state, I'll give the add-on a 4.5 out of 10, and if you've stuck around to the end of the video, you win a loud and unpleasant noise from a toilet in a city located in the South Island of New Zealand. It's the Dunedin Dunedin,